Oh, there he is, I think.
All
Oh,
right.
okay.
Oh, look at his tan.
Wow.
Look at the tan.
A beard?
It is me.
Ugh. Wow.
Sorry, Mike.
You're not
We're gonna get started now. We're gonna get started. This is Monday, April 15th, Income Tax Day, and it's a special school board meeting. We're gonna start with roll call.
Charles Black Lambs,
Here.
Reed Campbell,
Here.
Sean Hagelin,
Here.
Sue Kern,
Here.
Ruth Nelson,
here.
Bob Nystrom,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a first from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Nelson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first from Director Campbell, a second from Director Blacklance. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Site reports. We're gonna have an update from Corey Reynolds.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here to report back on the requests to poll the community about a new name for Baxter Elementary School. I can't tell if it's showing. Is it showing to you?
No.
No. Well, we'll have to use our imaginations. Okay. So you asked us to talk with the community and ask them whether to, oh, hey, there it is. Ask the community what the new name elementary school in Baxter should be called. So we put out a very simple survey. This is the various places we asked. We started with a press release to the community. The dispatch was very nice and picked it up for us. I heard it read on the radio on a couple different stations. So we had really great coverage that way, and you can see all the different places we put it. And we were really excited to see the participation. Nearly 300 people participated, and you can see that's total votes. The various categories, we asked them to give us some demographics about themselves. Those are turnstile numbers, so somebody could have been a resident of Baxter and a Brainerd Public Schools student, for instance. So that's a duplicated count there. But you see we had a really nice representation across the community. The results then are, in what is probably not a surprise to anyone, almost 2/3 voted to keep the name of the new school as Baxter Elementary, and a third voted for something else. I can show you across those demographics, almost every group voted overwhelmingly to keep the name Baxter. The only one I thought it was interesting, the 36 Brainerd Public Schools students. So these are students who go to other Brainerd schools, not Baxter. That's a separate demographic. They were the only group that the majority voted for a new name. So there you have it.
Very good.
Thank you.
I should mention that this is a special board meeting in that we were only going to have 1 or 2 items on here, and it has grown exponentially. So we're going to try and keep it as short as we can so that people can get back to work. Okay, action items here. Approval of the new elementary in Baxter real estate purchase. Marcy, could you talk to us about that?
Yes. I want to start off just by apologizing. I know that this was in the packet pretty late. We are still getting comments and feedback. So I'm just going to start right from the beginning. Page 20 is the development agreement. So this just kind of walks through all of the projects that we have going on between Jasperwood, Mapleton, Knollwood, and the water lines over at the new elementary in Baxter. And it has several, it talks about several attachments. Some of the attachments still are not ready from the city, so those will be to be continued, I guess, on those ones. We do have dollar amounts for those attachments, but the detail of them is still being worked on. So page 20 is the development agreement, and the only thing noted from our legal counsel was to remove section 1 is the sole owner and has marketable title. They did come back and remove the marketable title line item, so that did get removed, not the whole section, but just that part. And then the next agreement or page to note is page 28, which is the plat. If you look at that map, we are acquiring the section 2, which is the 40.7 acres. And it kind of gives you a review of all the projects. So you can see that the city is looking to add a curve on the corner and has Mapleton, Jasperwood, and Knollwood all on there. And then the next item is page 29. It's titled Petition and Waiver Agreement, but the city has been calling it the Assessment Agreement. It basically just talks about the cost of the project and who's responsible. So we have in there, Jasperwood is not to exceed the $2,239,337. And then for the other projects, it breaks out what our percentage of the project is. So for the school water main, we are 100% responsible. Knollwood Drive Trail, we are 100% responsible. Knollwood Drive FDR, 100% responsible. Mapleton Road, there has been a request put into the county for 33% cost share. Right now, we have it as the 25/75, which is their current policy.
What page is that on, Marcy? I'm sorry.
So page 29 is the petition and waiver agreement. So that kind of just walks you through the cost and how are those costs allocated, that agreement. And today we're asking for approval on the development agreement, the assessment agreement, and then the land purchase agreement. And then on page 37 is the feasibility report, and that is a very large report. That breaks out the projects in detail by cost, who's paying what those costs are based on the estimates that they currently have. And then the last one is and I did want to mention on the assessment agreement, our legal did come back with some comments, which we forwarded on to the city. And it was kind of hard because, so our legal is telling us what we want removed. Their legal is telling them, no, we want those in because then we're held liable. So talking with Lane, we're kind of in a tough spot because both our legal is telling us, to do one or the other things. And we want to move forward with this. We've had really good relations with the city of Baxter. Basically, both legal is trying to cover, so for example, if we were to back out, the city of Baxter right now has contracts for this project. They would be held liable for those costs. And then on the opposite end, if we go and purchase this land and then for whatever reason the city decides to not do Jasperwood, then we would be in a tough spot. So we're both kind of, I guess, at risk right now with how it's written. But we feel pretty comfortable with that just with our relationships with the city, if that makes sense. And then on page 99 is the actual real estate agreement. So this is the purchase of the land, and it is for the $650,000, which was the appraised value. And there was only a couple comments on that, and that was just that, we should have a plat, which since he gave those comments, we have gotten a plat. And beyond that, we do have, tonight is the improvement hearing for the city of Baxter. And then they will also bring this, all of these agreements to the city council tomorrow for approval.
Marcy, do you know tonight, when I go to the improvement hearing, are we going to have to respond? Or maybe Tim, are you prepared to respond if there are any questions regarding this?
I guess I was unaware of the meeting tonight, because you voted.
Okay. We maybe should have somebody there, so I'll be there for sure. But if somebody from WSN could be there, that would be great.
So do you have any questions? I know this is a lot. We just want to keep it moving forward.
I would like to concur. You know, I think the one little piece where we're kind of a little bit different is that the city talks a little bit about that they treat us like we're a developer. And we say, you know, as a school, we're really not a developer. We're a school. And they, according to their contracts, they have that opportunity where they can get out if they need to or whatever. And their legal counsel definitely recommends that they keep that language in there. And they're saying, we have no intentions of pulling out of this agreement if both sides are on to it. And Marcy and our legal counsel says it might be a good idea to take that out of there. I concur with you that over the course of a little bit over a year, we have had weekly meetings with them. They've been very amicable. They've really wanted to work with us on this. Now it's become almost daily that we've been meeting with them to get everything agreed. It's up to the board if you're willing to take that risk. I think both Marcy and I feel comfortable with it because of the relationship we've developed. However, it's up to the board if you feel that, no, we probably should negotiate a little bit further, but we feel very comfortable with the relationship that we built and the trust level that we built with one another.
And that was exactly the attorney's comments was, they're treating you like a developer. So it is what it is.
Thanks. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Does that come later? I'll make a motion that we accept or approve the new elementary and Baxter real estate purchase agreement as listed.
The assessment and the development agreement as well, all three?
Yes, all three.
Okay.
Second.
We have a first from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Campbell. Any further discussion? Do we need to read the parcel numbers, or they're posted so we don't have?
They're posted, so I
Okay.
think they're fine. One thing I might add to, for the Board of Education is that the city council will be voting on this tomorrow night at their council meeting, so it's very timely that we both have meetings within 2 days. So,
No further discussion. We'll go ahead and vote on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Marcy. And approval for the award for the apparent low bids for the new elementary. Brandon and Lane. Okay, Justin.
Good morning. As everybody's aware, we opened bids on New Baxter Elementary last Tuesday. We had a fantastic turnout. We received 62 bids that we opened that day. And of the proposed, or the apparent low bidders, 75% of them are local, within a 60-mile radius. And there's, I think it's like even a third of them are actually within the Brainerd Baxter area. So fantastic turnout for bidders and also local involvement. And I guess, and even looking at the whole team of contractors, it is a very, very impressive group of contractors. I have a very high level of confidence in them. It's probably one of the nicer teams I've seen put together in quite a while. So In the low bid process, a lot of times the chips don't always fall that way, but this one turned out really well. And again, like last time, I'm not gonna read through every bid and every dollar amount, 'cause you should have that in your packet to review. But, the one thing I did wanna point out is work scope 4, the masonry. The low bidder was Johnson Nelson Masonry out of Ashby. He rescinded his bid, so we will push that forward just to the next, contractor, which is Harbor City Masonry out of Duluth. Still fit well within budget. Project was under budget, bids came in favorable. We're ready to issue the contracts as soon as we get approval, and we're looking at an early June start. I do want to point out that there still are some pieces that we need to finish up, some playground work. We've held some of that money. It's still sitting in the budget yet. Some playground, then we want to go back and review some of the needs that came up along the way. We're trying to be financially responsible, so we prioritize a lot of things, and we just want to go back and look and make sure that nothing, anything else needs to get added in. We want to make sure that we're able to do that moving forward, but right now we're recommending the full project with all the alternates being awarded, which still keeps the project well under budget.
Brendan, I have a question.
Yes.
How is it that someone puts so much work into preparing a bid, winning the bid, and then they rescind that? Why is that?
You know, I think we had 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, something like that out there for contractors to put a bid together. But there's a ton of work out there right now, and a lot of times they'll pick it up and put these bids together within days or a week or two, kind of working on it a little bit at a time as they need to get the other bids out prior to. So it's easy to make some mistakes. It's easy to overlook a number or transpose a number. And again, you know, we had that issue on, I think it was Harrison last week, or the last board meeting. And we had another one here. It's unfortunate. It was a reputable contractor that we've worked with in the past, but it does happen, and we don't think they should be penalized for it. So we always release the bid bond, and just because mistakes happen. But you know, with this one, with 62 bids received, we only had one that was an issue. It's pretty good ratio. And I think sometimes too, they'll just look at the next number and start to get a little bit scared a little bit. So then they'll really start digging into their bids and find out, find the problem.
And our overall cost per square footage on this building is well below what you anticipated.
Yep, we were about, I think, $9 or $10 a square foot below our estimate, just because we just had a great turnout. Bids were really competitive, and it was a new project on a new site, and very, very attractive to contractors.
Okay. Well, I'll move the approval of awarding the parent low bids for the full project with alternatives as recommended from the construction manager for the new elementary in Baxter. And to authorize Superintendent Larson to execute the final contracts.
Second?
Thank you. Second. We have a first from Director Nelson and a second from Director Haglund. Any further discussion?
Oh, just this is so exciting that it's all coming together, the land purchase and the contracts, and it's all going well. Thank you for all your work, everybody.
No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Next up, approval of the apparent low bids for the Nisswa Elementary. We're going to talk about some options.
Yes, so again, this bid out a couple weeks ago, and we didn't bring this to the board for approval at the last meeting, because the directive was we wanted to get the project within budget. And Justin's been working pretty tirelessly along with the low bid contractors to come up with all these options. And so I do want to lay out, there's 3 options, but there's an integral piece here that is applying to every option, and this is our value engineering portion. If you're looking on your board packet, it's the spreadsheet, and it has a bunch of the green items lined out in it. The total, we laid out $1 million worth of value engineering options, and we didn't need anywhere near that. So it kind of made the process pretty easy when we've been meeting with Lane and Molly and Earl, and going through some of these options. It's nice to not feel like you're being forced into something, and you actually have some leeway to do what you want to do. I do want to run through those items briefly, just so we're aware of what the changes are. We're really not implementing any of the educational spaces in this scenario. We're changing the ceiling tile in the cafeteria area to just a different brand, different type of ceiling tile. We're reducing a little bit of the kitchen equipment. For instance, there's a new salad bar line in here. Found out that the salad bar was relatively new, so no need to replace that piece. So small reduction in the kitchen equipment portion. Changing the width of the aluminum doors, the styles on the doors. Slab on grade, pulling out, since it's not a structural slab, where there's rebar, a 12-inch on center rebar mat, and everywhere within the building. So we're reducing the mat and installing fiber mesh, which is very common. Changing just the brand of manufacturers on the cabinet and casework. Getting rid of a actual two-part mixed epoxy paint and changing to a latex paint. Still same high quality, much more maintenance friendly, but comes at a substantial savings because there's a good labor increase associated with that as well. Another option was reducing the exterior sun control devices. They were basically like a little miniature canopy over every window on the exterior of the building. We're putting window treatments on the inside anyways, shades, so it was a duplication of keeping the sun out essentially. So we're reducing actually eliminating the sun control devices on the exterior. There was a spec to clean the existing ductwork. We typically have that included, but every time we get into the projects and you open up the ductwork, they're clean already. So we decided, let's just take it out right now, and we'll make sure we assess that at the time, and if we need to clean this ductworks, we still have contingency that we could add it back in. There was the IT disaster room, where they had two completely separate units to keep the room cool so it would not be overheated. If one unit failed, the other one would pick it up and keep it going. We worked through with the IT department. That's not necessary. The response time would be soon enough that they can just go flip a switch and start shut the units down before anything starts to overheat. So substantial cost savings there. Reducing the generator size with some fire pump configurations. It no longer needs to be that size. Reducing the number of exterior lights on the exterior of the project. Still code compliant, but there's some items that just could be scaled back very easily. Reducing the amount of vinyl wall coverings inside the project. Changing the wall configuration type. There was a couple layers of 5/8 gypsum on the sound walls. We can change that back to 1/2-inch sheetrock. It's a sound deadening board and achieve nearly the same effect, and a nice savings there as well. We're keeping the existing flooring in the existing gym, but one of these alternates we are proposing to upgrade to match that level of quality inside the gym. It's a little bit thicker flooring with a thicker mat, so it has a little bit more bounce. It's not a wood floor. It's what is it?
It's Promar there's 120, but the mat would go over the existing as well.
Yeah.
So it'd be one new finished product.
Yeah, it's a mat, and then the product goes over the top of that, kind of like a thick epoxy type kind of product, a poured product. Changing from the tile, the stairways called for tile on the treads and risers. We're changing that to a vinyl, which is common and probably a little bit more safer, has a little bit more traction to it, so it should be less slippery. And then just changing the brand of rooftop units, changing to York units instead of what was specified, also came at a substantial savings. And so all of these total puts the base bid nearly, $18,000 under budget. And the team, when we've been meeting, it just makes sense. Just seems to be financially responsible. So I think we have some really good options laid out there. So we are proposing we implement those across the board. And with that, we also have three options we want to discuss here today and see which way the board wants to move forward. So option one is taking all those value engineering items and applying them, and also adding in There was alternate number 5, which was the additional classrooms, and alternate number 2, which was upgrading the parking lot, some striping and changing the configuration for a little better flow. Not a rework of the parking lot, but just minimal work to help it flow better, to help the traffic flow better through there. So with that, it puts us about 297,000 over. We'd have to take that money from the bid efficiency that occurred in Harrison and New Elementary and help Nisswa out as a result. So that's option 1. Option 2 is a combination of option 1 plus these other items, which is the east parking lot, which I think gives us 50 some spaces. So adding 50 spaces, parking spaces, upgrading to a fully adhered EPDM roof, and also replacing shingles on the library. There is about roughly an estimate of approximately 10 years of life left on those shingles. We did put that in here because we are utilizing some LTFM money, and in about 10 years, otherwise we'll just have to take some LTFM and apply it towards that, but it's a small amount, it's 11,000, so we can discuss that to see if the board thinks there's value in doing that now. And then the other piece being added on top of that would be replacing a good chunk of the existing windows in the building, and along with some other envelope upgrades, some caulking replacement, et cetera, to the exterior of the building. So that's option 2.
Windows are from the original.
I believe so. Are
Not
they?
from the,
Are they?
not from the, they've been replaced at one
Okay.
time, like on the, like especially like the 57 edition, they're newer, or new windows, but they're at the end of their life cycle for sure, yeah.
What does option 2 cost?
That one puts us about 725,000 over our base.
Okay.
With the possibility that if the board decided to wait on the shingles, there would be an $11,000 reduction to those shingles if you chose to do that today, because a board member had talked to me about that, about the possibility of waiting.
I just think of my own house. If I had shingles that were still good for another 10 years, there's no way I'd spend that money now to replace them, because you're just shortening their lifespan. So, and $11,000 will easily fit in our budget in 10 years when they're needed with our alternative financing. What's it called? Alternative.
Long-term
Facilities
facility
fund,
maintenance.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
But those, and the only caveat I put on that is, there's a lot of contractor mobilization costs already in the base bid, so we're not seeing a lot of that in that number right now. If we just turned around and treated that as a separate project today, if we had a number, it might be 15,000. I'm not sure about that, just throwing out a rough guesstimate. Then, of course, 10 years from now, there will be some inflation, so I don't know what that is, but it could be $20,000 or $25,000.
That's fair.
Any more questions on option 2? Okay, so we'll move on to option 3, which is all of option 2 plus improving the play area. It was, I think it was expanding it a little bit, moving some fence, replacing some fence around there, and also upgrading to the thicker resilient athletic flooring in the gym to match the price point, I guess, or quality of the current floor in there. And so that's 35,000 by itself. So option 3 puts us at 781,845 over.
I should add alternate 11, that floor would match the forest view floor. So if you're happy with the forest view floor, that's what that alternate would be.
Is that what Harrison is getting as well?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
and then when will we know about the, that pump, that extra 300,000?
So our plan is we want to get the well drilled right away. So we want to get approval from oversight to move forward with the well. Few different developments, kind of some that keeps changing a little bit. We're proposing right now, moving a little bit different direction and keeping the existing well that's there for domestic water and only adding the well for the fire pump, which, if it works out, there's really no cost change in that scenario. I don't think it should be.
Negligible?
Yeah, it'd be negligible. But we really won't know the answer to that till the well driller comes in and tests the flow. out of the ground, but everybody, all indications are everybody's pretty confident that we'll have the correct amount of flows. I think you've talked to 3 different well drillers?
Yep, 4.
4, and they're all, familiar with the area and the capacities, so level of confidence, but there's still a risk there that we may have to go back and provide an alternate plan for that.
So highly unlikely that that will happen.
Yes, according to what we know now, yes. I hate saying that because it seems like it always comes back to bite us in the end, but today we're comfortable with it. But there is a risk there moving forward, and we'll know, I guess, to get the long answer out of the way, we'll know here hopefully next month if we can get that well drilled exactly what we're dealing with.
Do you know how long that athletic flooring at Forest View, the length of that, or how long that was meant to last?
Well, it was installed in early 2000, right, 2001-ish, right? It's still in good shape, I believe.
I think it was 2000.
3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, it's a 20-year warranty on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what this one would have. as well.
Yeah. Both the 90 and the 120 has a similar warranty. It's in 2002. 20 years. Yeah. It's a very popular floor. Even the 90, the base bid one is what's currently installed at Nisswa now. Yeah, the upgraded one is what's at Forest View, and I know both floors have been liked.
So the masonry company stayed in on this one, or that was the one that pulled out on the other school? Ashby?
Yeah, this one I believe was Harbor City,
Correct.
and yeah, they're good with their numbers.
Where Nisswa has Johnson Nelson.
Oh, I'm sorry, this was Johnson Nelson, I got the wrong project in front of me here. And they're good, right?
Yes.
Nobody's rescinded their bid in
Oh, yeah.
Nisswa.
So I guess the question here is, as you're aware, we had a significant difference in Harrison, Forest View, and the new elementary school, which is Baxter Elementary School. And so we feel that there are some additional dollars in question. One, if the Board of Education wants to be able to complete more of these pieces of the project to make it more equivalent with what's happening at Harrison and at Baxter Elementary School. And so what I did in this option today was give you 3 options. One, the one that we've talked about, base plus those extra classrooms that we feel are imperative at this time, and one of the parking lots. One with a few additions, which I think Ruth is correct, or Director Nelson, that might be a good idea to look at taking that, the asphalt shingles off, if that one is complete. Or if we took the whole package as we have gotten at Harrison and at Baxter Elementary School, what did that look like? And that is option 3 in here. This would include some additional play areas. We are getting play areas at the other schools. I just wanted the board to be able to see what 3 different options might look like and to see what the difference in cost would be. We do have what I believe is the resources necessary to do any of the projects, but it depends upon how much you'd like us to move forward with as today.
Well, and we've seen a lot of growth at Nisswa, and I don't think we've done any playground additions. So I'm
Right.
guessing they need some additional playground equipment. So I'm in favor of the additional playground equipment.
Okay.
I'm in favor of option 3. I'll make a motion to do option 3.
I'd like to add that we're not adding playground equipment with that alternate. We're resurfacing, regrading, resurfacing the ball field,
Oh,
and
it's
redoing some
it's
fencing.
not equipment.
Not equipment.
But it would
Oh,
space.
Yeah. So what are we doing? We're,
Redoing some fencing, resurfacing like the ball field, reseeding,
okay.
regrading and reseeding. That's about the extent of it.
Oh, okay.
Tim, would you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, those are items that were in the long-term facility maintenance plan.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so they might still need additional playground equipment at a later date. We'll have to see.
take out the asphalt?
Yeah, yeah, I'll move on, option 3, alternative 3, without the asphalt shingles.
I'll second that. And Madam Chair, would it be possible that Principal Rasky could address us on these, what your thoughts are and the playground and everything?
Could we have a little more discussion first, maybe?
Sure.
If that's okay?
Okay.
So we had last talked in the oversight committee about the issue of the unknown with our suppression system, and we've got to drill a well. We talked about having some of these other possibilities, a decision delayed until about the 1st of June because of the unknown of the suppression system. I think that was going to be a few $100,000 or $600,000 maybe.
It's over 300,000.
Okay.
And that's what we just talked about, where he said they are going a different direction.
And so it's not going to be an issue whatsoever.
Can't say that, but it's getting, the risk is a little bit lower than what it was before.
Yeah, I thought that's what I heard, but is there a reason, do we still have that as an option to delay until closer to the 1st of June? Until that's figured out, or won't we know by then?
I'm looking at, and I'm thinking, taking contractors into consideration, how much of this we can push back and the impact. Probably the most critical things we would need to know right now would be the additional classrooms, which direction we're
If I
headed
could
with
just-
that.
Beyond option one, I mean, 'cause
Beyond
we were
one?
kind of thinking the option one route with that delayed piece.
So we could take option 1, and then if this is the direction the board wanted to move, hold the alternate numbers till we would pick a date, call it May 30th, June 1st, whatever, and then award them later once we had a better grasp on what the well was bringing.
And I know we did talk about that, but since that time, the Baxter has come in low, quite a bit low, and would,
I'm not connecting the dots. What does that have to do with this?
well, it's all in question 1, and so we have the dollars right now.
Yeah, if we
Have
accepted,
several more projects to go, too.
In question 1, we do. But the majority of projects have come in lower, and we still are under overall, even if we did these additions.
if all of this hit us and we had to do the well and we did alternate 3, we're still well covered with the numbers that came in on the previous 2 projects.
Right, to date, but we have over half to go yet.
Yep.
Good point. Probably less than that.
But I would say risk-wise, yes, half the projects for elementary, but it's really probably closer to 1/4 of the risk, just due to the project sizes. It's the smaller projects. So we are moving past what I would consider the highest risk part of the project, which was this first wave here.
So, Tom, what you're saying then is depending on what happens, we could have to be on the hook for another $300,000 more?
Yeah, 306,000, depending on what the flow is of the well.
And we'll know that by when?
End of May, roughly. If the design team and everybody felt it was a higher risk, we would probably wouldn't even presenting the option right now, but we're trying to keep the costs lower. Just making you aware that 306,000 could be out there. I would call it a minimal risk with the information that we have right now, but still a risk nonetheless.
So a lower risk than last week.
Yes.
You know, my thought is, it's unfortunate that the bids came in higher on Nisswa, but I don't want to shortchange Nisswa. We're going to build a great school in Baxter, and I think Nisswa should be the same. And that's why I would like to hear from Molly, just to get her thoughts on this.
My back is better.
Thank you for inviting me up. Well, this process has been, like I said at one of our committee meetings, I don't shop on the sale rack, so this has been, but this has not been difficult. Going through, I won't even say reductions, it was just this process of looking at our plan and making the best decisions possible to ensure that we have the best facility within budget. Now, having said that, it is difficult knowing that we are at the front of this project and that possibly we could have other buildings that all come in real low in their bids, and then Nisswa Elementary School, we're living within a budget. So that has been difficult, but the decisions that we made bringing forward to the board were ones that I sleep well at night knowing that our facility will be solid, beautiful, and serve our students well. Otherwise, I would not be able to put my name on them. But as a team, I think we went through to ensure that our building is as solid as any others.
And so do you support option 3?
I would like to see the full project,
Which is option 3?
option 3. I do feel that we need additional classrooms. I do feel that we will fill those classrooms, and that as the principal, I have no problem in public saying that that is my job. I do feel that if we have additional classrooms, we need to look at our parking to ensure that we have parking for our families and community as they come in. If we're looking at the shingles of the library, I'm perfectly comfortable saying that we need to have them live out their lifetime. As far as the playground, I wasn't here when we put any of the fencing in, but I was told the reason the fencing was put in was because of animals and snowmobilers. And we did have one snowmobiler kind of park real close to my fence this year. So looking at our playground area, if we are also going to be parking in the back off of Lakers or off of School Street, we probably need to look at that to make sure that that is secure, just like our secure entrance. Our community uses those ball fields all summer. Not this summer or next summer, but they are feeling the pinch. And our community uses that playground all summer. They use the tennis courts all summer. So I want to make sure that that is an area that is well kept and also matches our beautiful facility. But I will support the will of the board, and knowing that in Nisswa, we do have wells. And with wells comes a lot of money, and to make sure that we can have good water and also support our fire extinguishing system, we need to do a test well. And we've done that before. Never thought as a principal I would be going through that twice. Never even thought that we could be living on well water within a public facility, but we are, and so I know what goes into that. But in a perfect world, option 3 would serve Nisswa Elementary School well. And that's not easy to say, but that is what I feel like I need to say for the benefit of the students in Nisswa. Yeah.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
I believe we have a motion already on the floor from Director Nelson with option 3 minus the asphalt shingles. And Director Nystrom, you seconded that. So we want to go forward for a vote?
Just for clarification.
Sure.
On option 3, which, fine to move forward with that. The HVAC is off, but it's not on our agenda to be approved. It's on board book, and I don't know if that's an oversight or if that'll need to come later. But I just, from what I can tell it's not an option 3, which is great, so I can,
Oh, that's part of option 3, though. When you vote separately, you would be voting for option 3, but the Thielen and RJ Mechanical would be separate.
that's
But
the new,
they're-
but that's the new Baxter.
That
It-
is item number 4 on the
Yep.
agenda.
And that's the New Baxter and Nisswa. And so that's why there are options there as well.
Oh, they're both included, I see.
Yeah, they're both included in that one.
Okay.
Yes, yep,
Gotcha, thank you.
great, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion?
I just, one thing, it's a little bit off of this, but just, I was gonna bring it up during Baxter and I forgot, it's just, I don't want us to forget about, solar energy. You know, there's articles in Pequot and Pine River, about the more savings they're getting than they ever thought they would. And it might fit best at Baxter, but I want us to keep that on the table, that we look at some solar energy project with us too, so.
Yep, great.
you might Just make a note of that.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thanks, Mom.
Thank you.
And the next one is the apparent low bids for RJ Mechanical and Thielen Plumbing and Heating for the new elementary in Baxter as well as Nisswa. Is there a motion?
Is there different options there?
Different options, I think?
There are, and there are really 2 options, but Brandon and Justin were really nice about trying to keep it really simple. And so option 1 doesn't, it includes everything that was in option 1 as far as the roofing and the HVAC system. Option 2 that you see in your packet includes everything that was in option 2, and that one is exactly the same as option 3. And so I think to keep it consistent, we could say option 3, which is the roofing with Thielen Heating and Roofing Incorporated. And it would also be Thielen Heating and Roofing with the HVAC system. Oops, yep. And then, let's see, I had to get to option 3, sorry about that. And it also, it is including both the Baxter Elementary School and the Nisswa, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So you want us to go forward with one of these 3 options?
Yeah,
or
and
you
I would
just-
recommend option 3, just to keep it simple. It's
To keep it
exactly the
simple.
same as option 2.
Okay. So we're kind of looking at option 3 here.
And we kind of already discussed some of these
Baxter on
changes
here.
on the Nisswa, I think.
It doesn't say Baxter Elementary School on here.
You have to go, there's another letter, engagement letter down.
Oh, separate letter, that's right, after the Baxter one. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it includes both of those. Yeah. There we go. With our,
So is there a motion going forward?
I so move to approve option 3 on item number 4.
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion?
And I'll abstain from voting.
That's fine. We have a first from Director Campbell, a second from Director Blacklance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. So we have 5, 4, and 1 abstention with Director Hagman. Moving forward, approval of the Baxter Elementary name of the school. We heard the presentation from Corey Reynolds, and 70% roughly are in favor of it staying at Baxter Elementary. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve Baxter Elementary School as the official building name for the new elementary school in Baxter.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. We have a first from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Campbell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving right along, the design development of Brainerd High School. We are going to have Mike and Chris come talk with us. Good day.
So we have to go back to board.
Okay.
These
sending
wouldn't
it out
print on
anyway.
board
Okay.
books, so we,
So we don't even need that.
getting hard copies here, let's just sign that.
You want these back now?
Nope, you can keep them. Yep. You can keep them, and there's spare copies too for if the public needs to see them.
Good morning. Again, we're here for final high school design development approval this morning. I'm going to skip through the first 3 slides, as that's the handout that we just. Oh. Stay on this. I don't know, Tim, do you want to just walk the group through the site improvements as they're currently planned?
Certainly. Morning.
Morning.
So what you have in front of you, we had a meeting with the DOT in the city of Brainerd and tried to get to the final layout that you see before you today. And so we've had our traffic folks take a look at and address some of the questions or concerns that were raised from that group. And so those are addressed in this particular layout. So what you'll see on sheet 501, that really hasn't changed. We're going to leave the parking as we're showing on the north end of the building. We will have a pedestrian crossing, and we're going to keep the configuration that we have for turn lanes because we'll need that to promote turning movements into our parking lot on the north side of the Performing Arts Center. So there's really, the only change on this is north of the intersection of Oak Street, we're going to direct the traffic so that we have the southbound traffic going to the curb on the north side of that intersection. So for transition, we got to make that change. On sheet 502, what you'll see is really the only revision that we had on this particular instance is on South 6th Street at the intersection of Pine is we'll have to have an island that we'll construct there, and that is to discourage folks from crossing South 6th Street onto Pine. Both the DOT and our traffic consultants confirm that if we try to have folks making left-hand turning movements, it's going to be problematic. So we're anticipating that the DOT will require this island to be constructed. And then on South 5th Street, the only change we had made there is the north and south lanes that we're maintaining outside of the center island is we're just widening those to 15 feet. On sheet C503, well, we can go to 504. So on 504, what you'll notice there is the parent drop-off pickup area is going to be dedicated on the south side of the school. What we're currently proposing there is we'd have a drop-off lane, we'd have a bypass lane, and then we'd also have 2 lanes for traffic outside of that. I think that'll just increase the circulation on the south side of the school. And then what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a meeting with the DOT and the city this week to finalize this based on our traffic consultant's recommendations. The only caveat to this is I'm anticipating I might have a little bit of kickback on Oak Street. We're not showing any island on Oak Street. I think the worst case is the city might say you have to put an island on Oak Street just to make our entrance from that parking lot a right in, right out only. We're not showing that currently, but we'll see where that goes. Again, I see that as a worst case scenario.
Tim, will the stoplight still remain at 5th and Quince?
Yes, that's correct. Are there any questions on the site?
And then on 5th Street, you talked about how the traffic to try to slow it down. How will it slow down?
Yeah, we had, Director Nystrom, we had several conversations on that as well. The serpentine movement was one option that we had talked about, but based on the meeting we had had with the city of Brainerd and DOT, it was felt that by narrowing the lanes will accomplish that same thing. And the problem we run into is it is a state aid route, so therefore there is a criteria that we have to maintain 30-mile-an-hour speed limit on that, even though we have stop conditions. So we felt that this would be a better scenario rather than the serpentine layout.
Will there be a crosswalk where they have to push a button and it'll flash lights right in the front of the school?
Yeah, if you go to sheet C502, and that's something we can talk about, is on the left-hand side of the sheet, what you'll see, that's Oak Street. And we are not proposing a flasher at that location just because it is an always stop. We certainly could include a flasher. I think the ones the county has recently implemented are like $10,000 per intersection. So I don't think it's a huge expense. It's something we can certainly consider. And then what you'll see is in the center of the page, we drastically reduced the lane width that we have pedestrians walking across. So we're talking 2 lanes of 15 foot. There's a huge center median in there that'll act as a refuge. So that'll be a huge safety improvement over what's there today.
I was wondering too, could we add one more row in the parking on page 502 across the street from the high school? You've got it on one side, couldn't we go over to the other side, or is that gonna be too close to our neighbors?
Well, Director Kern, the reason we have the parking as we have shown is, again, what we face is the storm sewer that goes in South Fifth Street is highly taxed as it exists today. And the city has made it very clear that we cannot add any peak flow to that system. So what we're showing is we need that green space area to create a stormwater pond. And what that will do is it's going to allow an offset so we can do our performing arts center and the additional parking that we're showing on the east side. So we're anticipating that we're not going to be at any additional stalls on the east side of Fifth.
So then we're actually only gonna utilize half of the block.
Yes.
Well, we utilize it all.
As green
because-
space.
Well, because we need the retention pond or drainage, so,
Kind of.
well, it's just needed to comply and for the environmental piece that we need that property.
Okay.
So that'll be all green grass right in there, or?
Well, I don't know that we have soil borings in that location yet. I don't know if it's going to be a wet pond or an infiltration basin.
Okay.
I don't think that groundwater's too high in this area, but, so it could be an infiltration basin, but,
So then it would be, if it was that, it could be green space,
yeah.
which
I-
would be nice.
Yeah, I just have a
To have
feeling though that it's
Yep.
going to be fairly deep, so it might end up being a wet pond.
Oh.
That would probably be my inclination.
So if it's a wet pond, do we have to have fencing? Does that mean there's standing water there most of the time?
Yep, so we could implement a fence on the south side of that parking lot.
Make it green, don't make it a wet pond. Figure
Make
that
it a
out.
green pond. Here.
I think the only thing I wonder about this diagram on 502 is that there's only one sidewalk crossing, and if our students are parking in the larger parking lot, way down on the, I guess it would be Oak Street, it looks like there's a crosswalk there, but could there be another crosswalk closer to the main entrance where they might walk across the parking lot and cross the street?
Well, Superintendent Lane Larson, what we had talked about with that is we didn't want to have, initially we had the crossing shown on the west side, or excuse me, the north side of Pine Street. But we thought because that being a right in, right out, we'd want to push the pedestrians to the south side of that intersection. And so what we would promote is we'd want the students to cross Pine Street rather than cross Fifth Street. You know, we could certainly add another crossing if you felt it was needed, but that was our initial thought process on that.
I just have this feeling they're gonna cross anyway.
Anyway.
So if we
Well,
had it cross there,
although
a designated area.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing that we did not show on this plan, and we maybe need to talk about, is the fact that what we've done on College Drive is we've included that center barrier so that we avoid that. We try to force those folks to where they're supposed to go. I think we should do that here as well, and apologize, I didn't have that shown in here. I think that's something we certainly need to talk about.
You mean the pipes with the cabling in between?
Or something of that nature, yes.
And I see Principal Russ back there nodding her head in affirmative.
That's what we had talked about
Yeah.
previously.
Yep. Yep. So we'll get that implemented in here as well.
Good idea.
Any other questions on the site before we move forward?
With, just a quick parking lot thought, with the wet pond, or if it turns out to be a wet pond, is there any way that that could be incorporated in with, say, biology instruction, or could they be consulted when that's developed to be able to, maybe be something that they could incorporate into their curriculum?
Sure.
Or, I'm assuming you have set way you have to build it to. I don't know, but
Tim, just going back on that sidewalk, is there a sidewalk then in the northwest corner of the larger parking lot to cross over Pine Street?
Yeah, it doesn't show up on here very well, but on the north side of Pine Street, there's actually a wide concrete sidewalk that exists there today. And it goes all the way down to the front of the school on the east side of Pine, or on the east side
So
of
that'll
Pine.
be retained and then
Yes.
connected to cross?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll show a crosswalk probably going across Pine from the north to the south. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the floor plans. Mike, I don't know if you want to just hit on the highlights. I don't know that a whole lot's changed since the board's last seen it.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and thank you all. Not a lot of changes programmatically with the floor plans for the high school. Over the past few weeks, we've had the opportunity to meet with the Oversight Committee and address some questions and some concerns. We've also had the opportunity to meet with Earl and Jeff in terms of reviewing exterior materials, for example, for the building, as well as taking a look at the existing conditions of the roof and really quantifying and verifying the scope of work with the roof. Again, programmatically, the floor plans in the lower level here of what you see on the screen hasn't changed from the last time when I presented to you. So I think we can keep moving forward here. On the main floor, we have had very good discussions, I'll say, with the Oversight Committee and others. In our last meeting with the Oversight, ARI, Lindsay, the interior designer, presented, and we discussed the commons areas in particular. And one of the most important pieces to that was the circulation and the flow through the common spaces. How are we going to have access to the building? And of course, we need to think of this building in terms of how many different events will be hosted and all of the things that will happen. So I think that's been very good in the fact that we've defined how furniture can be arranged and how to keep certain areas open for circulation and exiting. Also with the Performing Arts Center, we've answered some questions and also incorporated, for example, coat rooms. So the space is very accommodating for the community, and so we now have the coat room shown and identified that would be available in addition to the ticket booth area, and the coat rooms do have the capacity to for the 1,240 people that are there. So
And where are they?
they're located on either side of the entrances into the Performing Arts Center auditorium. So they're on the very northeast and the very southeast corner of the auditorium space. And in talking with other venues, I did a little bit of research there as well. And so just in taking a look at how they actually store coats and also the number of coats that they typically house within those spaces, it was interesting to get some of that statistical information as well. However, we've identified on the plans how there could be enough linear feet to have enough coat storage within this facility. Another really great development, I would say, as part of further discussions about the design, is a family restroom that was incorporated within the performing arts space. And so, again, listening to those questions and those concerns and getting that incorporated within the current design, which you see in front of you. And yeah, I would say just with the upper level here that we're looking at, programmatically, not a lot of changes there as well. In taking a look at the exterior renderings, again, not a lot has changed here either. Again, just in terms of the exterior materials, having a chance to review that with Earl and Jeff, we've identified that there will not be any ephes on the building, and that's a stucco type material. And also, in lieu of installing ephes, it would be ACM or an aluminum panel, which should be consistent with the other projects that have already gone off for bid, Baxter being an example. So a lot of good discussions, a lot of clarification in terms of what the expectations are for the building and materials moving forward. These are renderings and just examples of things that we've discussed, used for conversation purposes during oversight committee, as well as meeting with staff. And this is an image of the main large commons area as you enter into the building. So these have been very helpful. ARI Lindsay in particular did a great job presenting this information and developing these spaces. Again, it's just establishing the expectation for how these spaces are used and furnished. These are just a continuation of these images. Cafeteria and commons, another area that we had talked about. This is the commons directly off of the athletics area. And so also we listened to a question and concern about the capacity of the concessions area. And in working with our consultant, Cullinex, and the Brainerd High School staff about the capacity, they certainly feel very confident and comfortable with the design and the capacity for having concessions for all the events.
I had a question with the concessions there.
Yeah.
Do they go inside of that space?
No, you
it
just
comes
walk up
out.
to a window.
Okay,
Yep, that's correct.
thank you.
You bet. This is another image, again, just further development of the commons areas. We've had very detailed meetings with food service staff as well as our consultant, Cullinex. And this is a nice image where we're actually providing a space. You know, we're talking 900 students per lunch period, and so we need to, account for that additional area. Within this additional common space, what you see below the logo actually is 4 microwaves, so that students that have brought cold lunch, this is a very accommodating space for them, so it keeps them out of the hot lunch circulation area and seating area. But then also, in talking with staff, we'll identify a part of that built-in area to have a tray station, so that we'll have multiple tray stations. Getting into a lot of detail here, but a lot of conversations with staff and just further development of how everything will function and flow.
Is that gonna have carpet or
No, not carpet.
And it won't be white either.
won't be white?
No.
Yeah, say show.
Yeah,
This,
we talked about that and said, yeah, it might be hard to keep clean.
This is the south entrance into what will be the aquatics addition. So this is in response to, again, access to the building and during different events, what that looks like, and also as a primary parent pickup and drop-off area. These are images just to provide some detail as it relates to development of the pool area, the pool deck, in working with Scott Whittemore with ICS as well as US Aquatics, and again with ARI, we're developing what that pool deck will be.
What
Here's
is the
some-
kind of pool? There's a name for the kind of pool that you're looking at?
Yeah, there is an alternate for that pool system.
As shown and as is in the budget, it's plaster, but there is an alternate for a Murtha pool. It's about a $562,000 cost. That route.
Again, these are images that we've utilized just in further developing these spaces. This is the exterior of the Performing Arts Center, as you've seen before. Again, just clarifying materials and confirming that with Earl and Jeff. The interior of the Performing Arts Center lobby, so a lot of great discussions about making this a very accommodating space for the community, and also just very flexible in terms of what could be within the space and also what could be displayed. These are images that we've been utilizing from a design standpoint, just establishing the look and feel within the auditorium. And then also the performance. And so along the side walls of the auditorium, we're working with our acoustician, our consultants, and looking at the adjustable acoustical banners that will be located within there. Also taking a look at the interior materials. There's a combination of some stone in there. And then also important to take a look at sight lines. And so we're adjusting the sidewall heights of those lower wall sections, and so visibility and sight lines are critical. And then also the types of seating. You know, that was one of the items that we've discussed in a previous board meeting, and so there are meetings being set up. Lindsay with ARI is beginning those conversations and specifying the type of seating and making it a variety of different seating types, as well as having some removable seating closer to the front of the auditorium as well, the stage. So it's very important to take a look at all these items, and that's currently what we've been working on.
Budget, our last estimate shows that we're tracking slightly under the overall budget. So again, good news. We'll continue to track that through construction documents as we develop that and go out to bidding. And then schedule, again, we're looking, I believe, to start coming back to you in May for construction document approval, late May, early June.
And again, in the Performing Arts Center, that multi-purpose room or atrium is just a shell at this point, right, within that
Correct.
alternate?
That's correct.
Okay.
I would just like to say that as a student in the early 70s at the new Brainerd High School, I am blown away by the interior design of this high school. Great job. If Principal Rusk would have me, I would love to be a new student when this school opens, so.
And
No,
older than average. Volunteer.
yeah, I could be a volunteer. No, great job.
Yeah, I would like to
The
echo in on
community's
that.
going to be really proud of this.
I would really like to echo in on that too. Mike, you've done a great job, and Erica too.
Yeah,
Very,
great team.
Very
great
good.
team effort.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
but you can't play football.
Yeah, no one wants to play football with you. Okay, is there a motion?
I so moved. The approval of the design development for Brainerd High School as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, with Dr. Campbell was first and Nelson second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next up is the calendar, and we're going to table that for today.
We'll have it next Monday.
And we will talk about that next Monday in lieu of the snow day last week.
Hopefully, there'll be no more snow. Yeah. Hopefully, we're done with this after last week. Yeah. Cross your fingers.
The forecast looks good for this week anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay, future board meetings, we have lunch with Lane on the 18th. April 19th is Good Friday. The offices will be closed, so you can celebrate with your families for Easter holiday. April 22nd will be our next regular school board meeting, and the 29th, another lunch with Lane at Lowell. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second? First from Director Nystrom, second from Director Blacklands. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Meeting adjourned.
There are lunches, so, yeah. Janet's got lunch for everybody.
I've got lunches ordered for you guys.
Oh, thank you.
They're in
The back, okay.
That wasn't bad.
years
Hour and
ago
15 minutes.
that we'd be doing this.
I think we did great with all the stuff that was happening today.
You have just a few minutes.
Any local blazers been in
Any local what?
glass
Part of
companies?
that makes it a lot easier.
I don't remember how close they've been.
It'll be weird for the next 2 years.
Well, they weren't at, Baxter.
They weren't.
Yeah, I don't remember them at any of them, when you say that.
Except to be the new Baxter Elementary and the current Baxter Elementary. Just use current.
Weird.
All right. Was we'll just meet in my office and we'll get lunch and, yeah.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Yes. This was good. Thank you, Sue.
Who is our secretary? Who's our secretary? We need signatures here. Is that you?
Yeah.
Clerk, or, I don't know which one.
Do we have project oversight tomorrow?
Yes.
Maybe not.
I'm kind of thinking that we might not need to.
All right. Susie, Susie.
Yeah, I think you gotta sign these. How was Florida? Great.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Here, I'll let you get started.
Oh my God.
I have a salad back there.
You want me to do?
Thank you.
I'm signing all these, right?
So we're gonna cancel project oversight for tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.